Hi guys, I'm Beth. I'm the Executive Director of the Family Recovery Foundation, and I'm here with Anthony,
Hello.
My producer. He's back there with me. And I'm really excited to be sharing the content for Module 7. You can go to our website and find the modules there. I'm actually going to be teaching right off the worksheet, so you can just follow along with me. And I'm really confident that the content today is going to be really successful. So really excited and really feeling like this topic of boundaries, it's probably something for sure that is top of your mind. Because I think a lot of us, when we find ourselves in relationship with people who are struggling through mental health and addictive disorders, I think boundaries are the thing that we're really hoping we can manifest into our relationship. We've got this belief system that if we can set a boundary, it's really going to help the relationship thrive. So my goal today is to establish, first of all, what the definition is, and then also give you some understanding that might kind of flip things around for you. I think a lot of times we think that boundaries are something that I'm going to tell somebody so that I can manage their behavior. If I can just get someone in my life to do the thing that I need them to do, it's going to make me feel a little bit safer. It's going to remedy any issues in the relationship. And what I'm hoping to clarify in this module and in this curriculum is we're going to flip that whole thing upside down. And as I give you the definition, I really hope that you'll comment underneath our channel, underneath this episode, and find your way to questions there, because I'm going to give you some definitions that might be kind of new for you. As you think boundaries are an opportunity to control someone's behavior, I'm going to flip that around. So let's read the definition together, and then we can talk through it a little bit. So personally, I've been using Dr. Henry Cloud's book on boundaries, I would say for the last, I'm going to date myself here, but for like over 20 years or so. And I'm a big advocate in his work because what he does is he takes a spiritual approach to boundaries, and he also takes a clinical approach, and he combines those together. So I'm really hopeful that it blesses you as much as it blesses me. So let me give you the definition according to Dr. Henry Cloud. Boundaries are the limits that we set for ourselves within relationships. I'm going to read that again. Boundaries are the limits that we set for ourselves within our relationships. So I hope you caught something there. Boundaries are not the limits that we set on other people. Boundaries are the limits that we set on ourselves. They define who we are and who we're not. So boundaries are actually an opportunity to self-explore and to identify things that are important to me, things that I value, my personal value system, helping us maintain our individuality and personal integrity. So isn't that beautiful? Isn't it beautiful that boundaries can actually give us an opportunity to define ourselves? So as we're looking at things that are important to us, and as you're navigating the relationship with your loved one, with the one who's struggling through mental health and addiction, I think the opportunity here to slow the pace way down and to do a little self-exploration, to really get clear on what is important to me. How do I want my home to be run? What types of conversations do I want to have? How do I want to be communicating? And if you notice, as I gave you those offerings right there, I didn't ask you, what do you want from your partner? Or what do you want from your child? Or what do you want from the other people in your home? I actually asked you, what are you looking for personally? And that's why I love teaching boundaries so much, is that there's a lot of agency here and a lot of opportunity to get a tremendous amount of self-management and to move through our lives in a way that's pleasing and self-serving and giving me the autonomy to live the life that I feel God has intended me to live, and just really departing that to you, giving you the skill sets so that you can live the life God intended for you as well. And boundaries are a wonderful, if not one of the best ways to do that. So I really hope you're hearing this key point. If you leave with anything today on this module, I really hope you're hearing that boundaries actually define me. And I'm going to teach you, as we go along the worksheet, I'm going to teach you some communication skills so that you can really represent your boundaries well. Because when we're communicating our boundaries, a lot of times we think that, I remember when I first started I read this book like when I was in my 20s, and I was all excited thinking, I'm going to draw the lines in the sand. I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to start telling everybody what they're going to do. And I'm going to get, Anthony's laughing at me right now, but it's true. It's really true. I was newly married. I was really young. I was 21 years old, and I started reading the book, and we were in counseling and doing all the things. And I remember I just started drawing lines in the sand. And it was like I was a little 4-year-old little girl telling people, this is what you're going to do. And if you cross it, you're going to be in big trouble. Well, and then people would cross boundaries and I didn't know what to do. And then I kept setting more boundaries, and boundaries kept getting crossed. And then once I started to really understand the concepts of boundaries are not me managing you, boundaries are me managing me. And I'm going to walk you through actually how to communicate that in a way. Here's the beauty of it. We can actually have boundaries and operate in boundaries, communicate boundaries in a way, here's the winning ticket, in a way that actually draws people close. Can you imagine that? One of the things I've been teaching for years, having worked with people who struggle with addiction and mental health for 2 decades, is really explaining that we can actually draw people close when we have needs. And I'm going to teach you the language, the connective language that actually does that. I have a belief system that confrontation actually incites rebellion. I'll say that again. I actually have a belief system that confrontation incites rebellion. So if we can be strategic and have strategy alongside how we're communicating to have the goal of drawing people near even when you have needs, I think it's just going to be a win-win. And at least we can, as the loved one of the one who struggles with mental health and addiction, at least we can lay our head down knowing we've done right by ourselves and by our loved ones. So I'm going to read you a few sentences by Dr. Cloud that I just love. And again, they're right at the bottom of page 1 of your Module 7 worksheet. So boundaries define us. They define what's me and what's not me. A boundary shows where I end and where someone else begins, and it lends to a sense of ownership. I'm going to skip down a couple. Boundaries, here's a beautiful verse from the Bible in Proverbs. It says, boundaries help us distinguish our property so that we can take care of it. And here's the beautiful sentiment. They help us to guard our heart with diligence. A lot of you who I've been working with, a lot of the families in the Family Recovery Foundation, you have beautiful hearts of love and empathy and compassion. You're the ones who love all the way to the end. I want you to hear that. You're the ones that love all the way to the end. And what we're reading here in Proverbs is, as much as we might have this unconditional regard and compassion for our loved ones, the Bible is telling us to guard our hearts with diligence and to make sure that our hearts are safe, to make sure that we're living a life of safety and communicating in a way that provides us with the safety that we need. And when we find ourselves in these tumultuous, complex relationships where there's chronic addiction and untreated mental health, it can feel sometimes like our heart is wide open and we're walking into these relationships. Anthony's nodding his head because he's agreeing with this right here. We can be existing in these relationships so open, and I'll use the word vulnerable, this type of vulnerability in relationships to where we think we're in a safe space and we can't even imagine, we can't wrap our mind around the fact that the person on the other side of this conversation would intentionally harm us or not be able to hear our needs or not honor our boundaries. But we need to, the Bible says we need to be diligent with where we are placing our heart. And what's wonderful about the skill set of learning connective boundaries is that you'll learn a lot. You really will. You'll learn a lot because you'll newly be communicating in a way that should draw people close. I'm going to teach you how to communicate in a way to where it's actually disarming. It's actually honoring of the other person. I'm going to teach you how to negotiate with your partner, with your child. I'm going to teach you how to speak in a way that we're not demanding behavior change. We're actually just self-identifying what our plans are going to be. And when we're communicating like that, it's a real wonderful opportunity for your loved one to come close and to draw near. So we can switch the whole thing around. Okay? So a couple other thoughts from Dr. Cloud says boundaries are not separation. It's actually a place where connection begins, and I agree with that. And healthy boundaries actually increase our capacity for caring. It's powerful, isn't it? Because it means we can say no when we need to, and we can say a true yes when we truly need to. We must, here's the last thought, and this is from Gabor Maté, who's a wonderful spiritual clinician in the field. We must be able to say no to the demands, to the roles, to the obligations of others as they place them on us, and we must be able to say yes to our own life. And as we've been teaching through all these courses, through the Family Recovery Foundation, we've come to really recognize that our role in this relationship is really a role of finding our self-love and our self-care. That in our whole self, in our healed self, in our full healing, we can be so much more of an offering to our loved one. When we start to deal with the depths of codependency and the complexity of codependency, and we start to lose our life and our physical health, and we're kind of on the coattails of chronic relapsing behaviors, and we don't have a solid foundation around us, we are not in a position to be of aid to our loved one, which at the end of the day, that's the bottom line, right? Aren't we all here on some level to help our loved one heal and also find our way to our own self-love? So I think we're on our way there. I really do. I think we're on our way there. So let's go down to, when you're on the worksheet, just to let you guys know, there's a video that I put there, and Dr. Henry Cloud goes through. It's really worth watching, so consider just taking a minute and clicking on that link. The way he describes boundaries is so amazing. It's stuck with me for all these years, and I've been teaching it in treatment centers. He explains boundaries along the lines of imagining you have your own house, and you've got a house on your property, and the house has doors, and the house has windows, and that's kind of in essence our asset. Like, you have this home and you want to protect it. You've put money and time and energy into it. And when you have a door on your house, you then have the consciousness and the decision of who comes in and out of it. You get to, someone knocks, you look through the people, and you get to decide, no way, I'm not letting this person into my house. No way. And that's your boundary. That's your agency. Or you look through the people and you think, oh yes, absolutely, come on in, I'm so happy that you're here. Now, what if you had a house? He goes in and explains, what if you had a house but you didn't have any windows or any doors? What would happen? It would be a complete catastrophe. You'd have people coming in and out, you'd have people stealing your things. Well, I'd like you to take a minute and imagine your own humanity that way. You are your own asset. And if there's no windows and no doors and no conscious decision making of what comes in and what comes out, I would wonder if in these complex relationships with the ones we love who are struggling with addiction, I would wonder if that relates to you. Maybe you have felt like you've been perpetrated. Maybe you have felt like you've been abused or harmed, or maybe taken for a psychological, mad run. I don't know what it is, but maybe you have just felt like there's been too much easy access to your heart of hearts, or too much access to the drama of life, when there's a part of you in your spiritual self that's deeply craving a few things. Maybe you're deeply craving peace, and maybe you're deeply craving reciprocity in your relationship. Maybe you're deeply craving reciprocal love. Maybe you're deeply craving someone to meet you at the same place, in the same offering. You're offering, and you're hoping that someone will meet you in the same offering. And if there's no doors, no windows on your house, imagine that. If it's a free-for-all, if your heart is just too exposed, and you've allowed yourself to be in conversations for too long that have left you feeling like you've just been depleted and run dry, you've been bleeding out emotionally, maybe take a moment and think through, maybe there's a way that we can work together and we can help create some windows and some doors on your soul to get you beautifully guarded. That's what my heart is for you. For real. My heart at the end of the day is to get you feeling safe and sound. If you've loved someone who struggles through addiction and mental health and it's been untreated, and you are feeling similar to the way that I'm describing, you're going to need a tremendous amount of healing. That's the bottom line. It would be noted that your nervous system is likely depleted and shot. It'd be noted that you might be on a fight or flight mechanism consistently for such a long time. And as we start, here's the good news, as we start implementing some small boundaries, getting awareness about the fact that we can actually, in a beautiful way, start implementing them. Nice and easy, I always say. We don't have to do it all in one shot. We can just start getting some awareness around areas of our lives where we're not feeling so hot, or we feel we're being taken advantage of or manipulated, or those types of behaviors that can show up in a relationship like this. These boundaries will really help us get some traction. And then what'll happen is our nervous system will start to heal. And that's a wonderful place to start. And our bodies will start to get healthy. And then another teaching for another day is our minds will start to get quiet. And then all of a sudden, we start to feel a little bit of joy here and there. And I hope you're hearing how much I'm talking about you and not your qualifier. How much I'm talking about you and your recovery and your life and your thoughts and your dreams and all the things that are important to you, those beautiful burning desires inside of you. We're not even discussing what we can manage in our qualifier's life, right? Because we've come to recognize that it's our own life that we can manage. And I'm going to be praying confidently that these skill sets will inherently be a positive effect on your loved one. That's always my prayer. Okay? Okay, number 2. We're doing good. We're doing good, everybody. Anthony, we good?
Great.
We're good. Okay. Number 2, setting boundaries with love and compassion. This is such an important point, everybody. A lot of times we think boundaries are punishment, and we really don't want to punish people. That's not who we are. But let's go over the concept of boundaries. Boundaries are not about punishment or control, but about taking responsibility for our own actions and emotions. Note that last part. They're about taking responsibilities for our own actions and our own emotions. They help maintain healthy relationships by ensuring, keyword, ensuring mutual respect and understanding. Is that a desire of yours? I think it is. I would wonder if it is. It is mine. I want to be in relationships with everyone. Just to let you know, I've come to that place in my own mental health recovery. I want to have mutual respect everywhere I go. I want that with Anthony. I want that with my partner, with my adult children, with my boss, everywhere I go. It's important to me. I want to offer respect and I want to receive it back. And boundaries do that. Okay, so let's take a beat here and give a little example. So if they're not punishment and they're not control, then what are they? Then what are boundaries? Let me give a little example. So if boundaries identify who I am and who I'm not, then I would wonder if with our partners, let me play a little scenario with you and see how this lands for you. If boundaries identify who I am and who I'm not, then maybe we can be in a relationship with our loved ones by asking them if they're interested in hearing the desires of our heart. Do you hear that? I said all of that very specifically because when you're communicating your boundaries, I'd like you to go for the ask, not the demand. I'd like you to go for the ask. I'd like you to ask your partner or your kid or whoever you're in this relationship with. I'd like you to ask him, hey, and you can write this down if you'd like to write this down. This may be helpful. I always say stick to the script. So here's a script. I like to provide an invitation. Why? Because if there's an invitation, then you're giving agency to your loved one. You're not demanding a conversation. You're asking for it. And I think when we ask for conversations, I think there provides a lot of dignity there. So it would sound like, hey, I've been thinking about something. I've been working on something. Would you be open to hearing something that I'd like to be implementing into our relationship? And when you do that, you're giving the person the choice to participate with you or not. Now, I think 9 times out of 10, your partner, your loved one, your kid, I think they're going to say, well, yeah, what's going on? And you're talking differently, so they might be a little bit moved by that, but just ignore that. Anthony's laughing. Yes, these are new skills. So your family might be a little moved, but just keep going. It gets easier as you do it. Hey, would you be interested in hearing something that I've been working on and something I want to implement in our relationship? My guess is your loved one's going to say, sure. And I'd like you to say this. Here would be one example of how you can share a connective boundary. You can share with your loved one, I've kind of decided for my life that I'm getting a little worn out of arguing. I don't really want to be arguing anymore. So I'm going to be doing things a little bit different. When I get activated or I feel like I'm on adrenaline, I'm going to take a pause from our conversation. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to take a beat. And then when I calm down, I'm going to come back. And you just say that. Now, your loved one might say, okay, like have at it. Have at it. Do the thing you need to do. Good luck with that. Or they might say, maybe something egregious there might be bait there. If there's bait there, just ignore it and say, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I know it might be confusing, but this is something that's important to me. Don't take the bait of that. Just keep moving forward. The next time you're in a conversation and you now have body awareness and you recognize that you've been activated because maybe the person in front of you has said something that's hurt your feelings, or it's been mean, or it's been posturing, I'd like you to say, hey, can we pause? I'd like to pause. Do you see how I'm even saying that as a question? It's not even a demand. Hey, can we pause? I'm going to need to pause. And I'd like you to say, I'll be back, but I'm on adrenaline, and I'm going to let this adrenaline run its course, and then I'd like to continue talking about this because I care about you and I care about the conversation. That's a boundary. Did you know that? That's a boundary. Now, what did we used to do? Let's talk about that. Let me paint a different picture. What did we used to do? You're having a conversation with your qualifier. You get activated. Maybe you want to implement drug testing in the home. Maybe they just came home from treatment and you say, hey, I was talking to my therapist. Our therapists were collaborating. I'd like to implement drug testing in the home. And your qualifier says, absolutely not. I'm absolutely not doing that. You can't treat me like a child. What did we used to do? We used to say, I can't believe you don't understand what I'm going through. I can't believe you're not understanding that I need to rebuild trust. So what I'd like to offer there is, what if we stopped managing and controlling and demanding? And what if we just started to self-identify? What if in those moments, if we find anger and frustration coming at us, what if we just took a moment? And what if we just took a breath and said, I'm feeling on adrenaline. There's nothing happening here that we can't manage another day. And we stop and we take a beat and we catch our breath. And then we revisit the conversation once the adrenaline has subsided. I want you to really hear the part I'm talking about when I'm discussing adrenaline. Sometimes we have conversations and both parties are getting ignited on adrenaline. And I'd really like to offer you the concept of becoming so aware of your own body that anytime you find yourself on adrenaline in a conversation, you might feel it in your throat, you might feel it in your in your belly, your hands might get hot. I call that the indicator. If there's any indicator in your body that's letting you know that you have been moved into adrenaline, I'd like you to take a pause. And when you say that, I'd like to take a pause. That's a boundary. So we don't have to demand, we don't have to control, we don't have to hear this important piece as well. Sometimes we think that we have to get our qualifier to understand where we're coming from. I would wonder if that plays us into a game sometimes of exhaustion and emotional depletion, when the truth is we can get clarity and limits on who I am, coming back full circle, who I am and who I'm not, and really share the information with our qualifier, our loved one, instead of trying to get our loved ones to fully understand. If I can give you personal permission, like just taking a moment here, if I can give you some permission that the things that are important to you are valuable. Why? Because they're valuable to you. I'm going to say that again. If I can give you permission to hold value to the things that are important to you, simply because they're important to you, and to start to learn to detach from trying to get an understanding from other people around us, we might find our joy and our clarity through our boundaries so much quicker. Would you agree that so many times we find ourselves in conversations where we're really deeply hungry for our loved ones to understand where we're coming from? And then maybe the person on the other side is also deeply hungry for you to understand where they're coming from. And if we can come into the unconditional regard and offer perspective giving to our loved ones, giving them their perspective, that's okay. Did you know you can give your loved one their perspective, and at the same time, if this is your boundary, here's my coffee and water. If the coffee is the boundary and the water is the perspective, do you know you can have both? The perspective giving, do you know you can have both of those at the same time? Do you know you can empathically offer to your loved one validation and support and hearing what they're saying and stand with them empathically? That would sound something like, of course you don't want to be drug tested in your home. Of course this has become, hear the language, of course this has become a nightmare for you. You were just gone 60 days from treatment, now you're home, now you've got your wife requesting drug testing, you're probably worn out. Do you hear that? That's empathy, compassion. That's offering a perspective to your loved one. We get afraid to do that, don't we? Because we think that if we offer the perspective, we're going to lose the boundary. But isn't it a wonderful opportunity that we can help disarm our conversations that might be really complex and just full of negative energy? That I can go into the conversation and say, I see you. I know the thing that's important to me is really, really hard for you. And I care about that. Does that mean I don't want drug testing in the home? No, I still want the drug testing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being able to love unconditionally and offer your heart for your loved one who's going through a lot, and also have your boundary? Okay, you getting it? Makes sense, Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That was number 2. We're working our way through. You guys are doing great. All right, crew. We're on number 3. Anthony just gave me a little water break, so we're back. All right, number 3. Identifying and stopping enabling behaviors. So definition, enabling behaviors are actions that unintentionally support or perpetuate an individual's addiction by preventing them from facing the natural consequences of their behavior. There's a couple words in there that catch my attention. I really like the words natural consequences. When we enable our loved one's behavior, I want you to hear my heart in this. I know it comes with normally beautiful intent. It comes from love, right? It comes from not wanting our loved ones to hurt more than they've already been hurting. And to be able to get clarity and an understanding that addictive disorders, if I may speak to that as a professional in the industry for 2 decades, addictive disorders in their fundamental state require leverage in order to help a loved one recover. To do a very quick synopsis on addiction, I'd like you to go back to our module 1 if you have questions about this, but let me give you a brief rundown. The addict's cerebral cortex, the front part of their brain, the executive function. We have evidence now, especially using Dr. Amen's brain scans, which we can cite here on our channel. We have evidence to demonstrate whether it's a heroin user, chronic heroin user, or an 35-year-old alcoholic binge drinker on the weekends. We have evidence that demonstrates that the cerebral cortex loses activity level. That should be moving to you. So if the executive function, the rationality of your loved one's cerebral cortex is not working, they have what's called an amygdala, which is the fight or flight, the survival mechanism in the core of their brain. When a family steps in and provides leverage along the lines of natural, and I love natural consequences, not punitive punishment types of measures, but when a family steps in and creates leverage means something along the lines of, hey, I want to let you know I haven't been feeling good lately. The erratic behavior in the home, the not coming home, the drinking in the home, the drinking and driving with the children in the car, I'm no longer willing to participate in that, so naturally I'm going to have to take the children out of the home in order to feel safe. Do you hear how I worded that? I'm talking about me and my safety. me and my anxiety, me and the consequences for me that I'm going to need to do. That's a boundary. What did we used to do? We used to say, don't you care about the family? Aren't you going to make the change? You can't continue to behave like this. Yeah. These skill sets give us our best foot forward, which I know you want. I think you're watching the video because you want to put your best foot forward for your own health, your own safety, your own life, your children. You want to put your best foot forward because you also love your qualifier and you want to do everything you can to help them. So these moments of natural consequences that come in when you feel you have come to your end, what does it do? It actually invigorates that cerebral cortex. It actually gets that cerebral cortex up and running. It actually pops that cerebral cortex and calms that amygdala down. Do you hear that? Super important to recognize. It's the cerebral cortex. This is how I teach it with addicts all these years. Cerebral cortex loves your family. Cerebral cortex wants to honor God. Cerebral cortex has value systems, wants to stay out of jail, doesn't drink and drive. The addict's healthy cerebral cortex matched with their spiritual self, that's the person you know and love. Amygdala, not our friend. You hear that? The amygdala, not our friend. So when the cerebral cortex is diminished and loses its activity level, and there's no family leverage, what are we running off of? The amygdala. And what does the amygdala care about? The amygdala has been wired for a survival mechanism, and that's towards drugs and alcohol. Okay? So I hope you're understanding. Just hit me up with questions if you need more information on understanding the brain concepts. Natural consequences activate the cerebral cortex. Okay? So that's what we want. So please hear me, tether to me in these moments when you're feeling very scared. I understand that. It can be really scary when you're making these decisions for your own safety, your own life, your own children's lives. Like, I want to take a minute there. These are very serious moments when you're just making decisions to detach from relationships or to not pick someone up who's been incarcerated or to not offer money when you've been doing that. I could keep going on that. You know the behaviors that are enabling. When we stop those behaviors, please know that the science backs that the leverage when the family starts to get healthy and stops these enabling behaviors actually gives us more of an opportunity for the loved one to get the help that they need. Okay? Let me know if you need support with that. Okay, we'll go through a few of these. We're coming to a close. Here are a few examples of enabling behaviors. Offering financial support when it's only being perpetuated by substance use. Making excuses, covering up the addict's behavior, taking over responsibilities, doing too much, doing above and beyond because maybe your loved one is hungover the next day or they're incapacitated because they've been using and you're managing too much on your own. Rescuing, bailing them out of legal trouble. We talked a little bit about that. Denial is a big one. You know, I have a lot of compassion on family members who have children. I hear this a lot in the Family Recovery Foundation. A lot of moms are struggling when they have a partner who's chronically relapsing and they're a stay-at-home mom and they have children at home. They have this sense of feeling very, very helpless in the situation, and there tends to be kind of a sense of denial that comes in. There might be a relapse or some behaviors that are very overwhelming and scary to them. I've been hearing this lately on our Fix Your Family program, and moms are feeling this sense of overwhelm, not really knowing where to turn. All the more reason to be staying with our program and getting the support you need, because I have found in these 20 years of clinical care that when we stick together and the healthier we get, God always provides a means to our rescue. So please stay encouraged, and if you're finding yourself moving in and out of denial, can we just land there? Hear my heart here. Can we land there with compassion? Okay? If you have a part of you that knows that you've been in a very, very challenging situation for a long time, that's okay. if you move in and out of that denial, let's just show up there with a lot of compassion. You're on this video right now, so you're getting the help that you need. And what I know about recovery is that when we put in the effort, things get better. So if I can speak to that right now and say, you're getting better right now, like just hearing this. So if you're moving in and out of denial, you're already getting better, okay? It's getting better right now with me and Anthony. We care about you. We really do. We care about you. Sacrificing your own needs. I'm sure that's been something that's shown up in your relationship. Gosh, avoiding confrontation. We just spoke on that. And overprotecting. And the impact of enabling hinders the recovery because it prevents the individual from facing the natural consequences. We always say addiction is chronic and progressive. So on its own, addiction will bring in natural consequences vocationally, in relationships. And the more that we can partner together in our well-being, letting the chips fall as they need to fall, those natural consequences, like I was stating, perpetuate that activation of the cerebral cortex. And then it's God's grace. I tell everybody who comes into treatment that I'm working with, every new sober person, I say, you're a miracle. You're literally a miracle for walking in the door, because in order to walk in the door for someone who's chronically relapsing, it's a bypass. Hear this. Walking in the door of a detox, to me, my opinion, it's a bypass of a chronic instinct to survive. I'm going to say that again so you can hear it. Walking into the door of a detox is a bypass of a chronic instinct to survive. Okay? It's the cerebral cortex for a moment taking over and getting that loved one in the door. So God's grace, right? God's grace to that we can all, and I'm praying for all your families. We do every week on Fix Your Family. We're praying for those miracles. And that's what we're after. We're after that moment where the cerebral cortex bypasses that instinct to survive, which is tied to drugs and alcohol. And when you, hear this, when you start developing your strength, your courage, and your wholeness, and you start becoming aware of the places in you where maybe these enabling behaviors have shown up. No judgment, okay? No judgment on that at all. We don't have time for that. We don't have time to judge our behaviors at all, okay? We're just moving into a new awareness. We're moving into a new awareness that we actually have what we need inside of us. That's our beautiful spiritual self. We have what we need inside of us to do the thing we're called to do. And what are we called to do? I believe, if I can offer that to you, I believe we're called to joy. And I believe you, on this video right now, us talking to each other, I actually believe there's a life you were intended to be living. And not only can we find that, but we can also do our best by our loved ones. And if we can start to live that life that we were intended to be living, I'm going to do everything I can to support you in hopes. It's a hope, right? It's our prayer. It's our prayer. It's our prayer that the outcome of that is going to be the beautiful, holy leverage to get our loved one healed and whole. And I want that for you. I want you to have that moment where you're watching the miracle take place, where we've bypassed that old survival mechanism. So I'll close with this. There's more here, but I think that's plenty for today. You guys can go through here and then hit me up with questions or anything like that. But I just bless you. I bless you as you become aware of those behaviors that help to get you through. Maybe those enabling behaviors help to get you through. And maybe you just need to have some support and some communication skills, because I know that's your heart. I really do. I know you want to connect with your qualifier. I know you want to connect with your loved one. And I can help, and the Family Recovery Foundation can help. Fix Your Family is a great place to learn the communication skills. I just bless you as you first become aware of those old patterns, and then two, slowly, nice and easy, move into some new ones. Communicate in a way that actually serves you and serves your family, and then we pray, and then we wait and believe, and we keep practicing and practicing and practicing. We stick together, and we join together, we tether together, we support each other, and we walk confidently, declaring that all things are coming together for our good. So I bless you, and I'll see you on the next module. Bye, guys. Bye.